Casablanca Dreamers. I mean, that evocative name was something only Fatima could think about. The brain behind the idea of coming together, feminist thinkers coming together to think of how women can get out of poverty was Devaki's, and she pulled out people from various parts of the world, third world countries, to say, let's get together and think together. And I think, but the reason that we had the meeting in Casablanca was because the magnet was there. The magnet was Fatima, and she drew us to come there. And we were a very diverse bunch. We came from different countries, we came from different disciplines. There were economists, there were judges, there were sociologists, there were activists like me with no specific training. But like I said, we met that because Fatima was there. And she thrilled and inspired us. She dressed flamboyantly, you can see. And she laughed loudly. She had this loud laugh. Her eyes twinkled. She wove very long, beautiful stories. And when she said, voila, at the end of her story, we felt like clapping because she could really take us to another world. I mean, that was Fatima's mind. It was a civilizational kind of mind that took you away from the mundane and the everyday and just the little projects or into imagining and literally traveling on that magic carpet with her. So we, all of us, the Casablanca Dreamers, traveled on that magic carpet with her to reimagine this new world and also work to rebuild it. Words that were echoed in the earlier program yesterday. So Fatima took the idea of globalization and again turned it on its head because she spoke about how the need to break borders, that the borderlessness, she said the current globalization is very skewed, which is just finance that moves around. But the real globalization is to break borders and for us to come together really as people. And I think that was a very important sort of contribution that she gave us. And she took the character of Sindbad and contrasted him. He was going out seeking knowledge, meeting strangers, experiencing beautiful, wonderful things. She contrasted him with the cowboy, the Western cowboy, who wanted to go to a new place to capture, to put his stamp and say, this is mine. Very macho, Lone Ranger image with somebody who was far more a traveler who wanted to embrace and take in. So she said that this is our civilizational ideas of how we deal with the outside world. That in us, she was talking about the Arab world, where the idea of going out to travel was to learn and enrich and not to consume and conquer and whatever. So she recalled that for us. Yeah, so she said that, when you go to new worlds, it's not just blindly copying from another culture. That's not what it is. But it is about deriving, it's about adapting, it's about mutually sort of fertilizing each other with ideas and thoughts. And that's why she said that travel and journey was important. But for her, the journey and travel was not just outwards to other countries, to other lands, but also inwards, towards the self, towards your own history, towards your own culture, to be very rooted in where you are, even while you spread your wings and go far. The other theme that seems to recur in much of her writings was of movement. She spoke about movement both in terms of movement was necessary for survival, and movement was also a part of how the being a nomad, being unattached, allowed you to be more free and allowed new contacts, new relationships to be built. And this need to communicate, and the internet people have spoken about how she kept talking about that. This need to communicate, she spoke about in terms of to communicate with strangers, and she's even talks about encompassing non-humans like birds and sea monsters, so, and the idea of communication always had to do with respect for the other, that the other might be different, the other may be, not at all from your experience, but it is about making this link with the other, which is respectful. And so this, she said, is a truer globalization. She said that because strangers will be constantly trespassing into our neighborhoods and lurking on our street corners. The only thing that was predictable in Sindbad's travels was that he's going to meet wonderful people. And, so so this is the thing of not wanting to subjugate the other, but rather to listen and respect. Okay, so I will end with just a couple of things. One was that she talks about our arrogance, which makes us have very narrow views of things. And she gives this idea, which I think we as social activists should think about, of how we tend to go and hold training programs for local people, as if they don't know anything. We tend to go and want to build their capacity as if they already don't have strengths, and as if they have not already survived and thrived in their own environment. And she said this is a kind of arrogance that we need to shed. And I think I have tried to keep this in mind, because I do a lot of grassroots level work, and this is important to keep in mind. But she was saying what we need to do is to sit and have conversations with people whereby people build new realities, new knowledge, and new identities for themselves through conversations. That means they build, we build for ourselves and for each other. She talks about new technologies that often offer hope. She says that we can engineer our own image through these technologies. And, so she talks about, so she ends with a lot of a very hopeful kind of future. She ends with, her book also on Islam and democracy, which is one of my favorite books, because it again unpacks this idea that Islam and democracy are sort of contradictory terms, but talks about within Islamic traditions, contestations, challenges, upturning, that it's not correct to see Islam as monolithic, but it's also fervent with many different things. And who's in power determines what kind of history and what kinds of knowledge gets told. And many other forms are left behind, but there's always been contestation and challenge of authority in Islam. And she brings that up quite well. So, and she talks about the need for learning and knowledge as the way for us to get out of, and she doesn't mean education and qualification, but more in terms of knowledge. So I'll end with her saying, any group of creatures who gather together to pursue a higher goal could enjoy the dazzling effect that comes from mirroring each other's beauty. So she talks of the beauty that we all have and how we need to come together to affirm each other and affirm ourselves. So thank you, Fatema. Thank you for everything. And thank you for the words, and which still echo in my head. Thank you.